Hey everybody, we're back again.
What's
Um,
up?
this is a good idea, interesting. Let's get right into it. Let's start the show right away. You're going to be wanting to hit play on whatever platform you're listening to this on, probably YouTube or a podcast app or something.
hmm
Um, I feel like everything we've done so far on this show really works best in a video medium. Wouldn't you agree?
100, well, I mean, 100,000%. I almost was going to say 100% doesn't cut it because the amount of percents that of which for that I of which I would agree is seems to be more than 100. But yeah, the video format allows for the visual. Um, so we have I like to call it visual informational additives, which means that we have visual components that add to the informational portrayal of the insight that we're taught that we discuss. Um, yeah, so I think press play on whatever you might be consuming this on. If it is purely auditory, um, we applaud that as well. Of course, we applaud all mediums.
I feel like
Um,
that could, here's the thing is like for someone who wants to fully enjoy this podcast as it is, watch the video because of the video stuff that we do. But if you want to train yourself to be a hyper imaginative individual,
yeah.
um, then you might just want to listen to the recording and just imagine like our faces, our expressions, and then some of the additional content that we will be showing you. Um, so I gotta just jump right in and say that I've had a crazy day today. I'm on an Odyssey.
Talk
I
to us.
alluded to this in the few moments before we started recording on this call, but I just want to put it all out there on the record because it's just been insane.
I'm
Um,
I'm so curious, and my interest is peaking. Um, I don't want to linger too long. I want you to dive right in, but I do want to say that my interest levels have risen since you have mentioned that about what you're going to talk about. So let's. I'm excited to dive in.
so first I gotta ask you, do you notice anything different about anything that you can see?
I notice um something that I do notice is that I notice blankets on the top left of the visual field where Jacob is pointing now. There's sorted blankets that seem to be folded nicely. I can't say if I remember those being there in the past, which is an interesting illumination to memory and visual memory. It's like, what's different about this image? We record weekly. Other than that's the primary thing that comes to mind. I notice a little award too, which I'm curious about. Below the blankets, there's a little one of those fabric sort of, not a trophy, but a fabric medal of sorts. They're like an award. I don't know what
Yeah,
would you call that.
I would call it a ribbon.
A ribbon, right? That's what the word. Yeah, ribbon, an award ribbon.
Totally. Well, I mean, this is really good that you're noticing all this stuff. Um, but what if I told you that the specific things you're noticing have been in this setup every time that we've done this podcast? However, you're not wrong to notice them because the truth is they're both in different places than they used to be.
Hmm.
So it's not so much that you've never seen the stack of blankets before or you've never seen, the awards ribbon before. It is, though, that they've moved. Their position in the room is different. It's striking your eye in a different way. the zones. You know that idea about the three zones in any
Of
image?
course. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we don't even need to get into that. Anyway, so they're in different zones and they're striking you differently. So naturally, you're just sensing them in a different way.
It would be, I obviously know about the zones. It might be helpful for some of the listeners, for the listenership to hear about the zones if you want to elaborate briefly or moderately.
Okay, well, the first zone is the rule of thirds, of
Right.
course.
Yeah.
Um, and then the second zone, the rule of thirds being, of course, that there's three rows and three columns in every picture.
Every
And
image.
and it's one of the first things that they teach you in photography school is you try to go out and take the perfect picture using the rule of thirds. And everybody in the class always fails this assignment, and they all go out into the world. They walk around the quad and they go and try to take pictures of basketball hoops and different sports games, and they try to take beautiful portraits of their loved ones, and each and every one of them, no matter how beautiful the picture is, they bring it back into class and they're all stamped. The professor takes a big red inky stamp and stamps F F F over all their prints, and they
Totally.
say, "What? Oh my gosh, what's wrong? What's wrong?" And then he shows them the perfect picture by the rule of thirds, and it's of course a picture of a tic-tac-toe board.
Yeah. Which is zone one. That's zone one.
Yes, so you normally can't learn all three zones on the same day. What you can learn them, but it's impossible to put into practice. So at photography school, they do this much slower, much slower, more slowly, slower, kind
Slower,
of
yeah.
a combination. So anyway, we we move on to zone two. Zone two is sort of elements of composition. So we have the background, the foreground, and the X factor. So these are sort of three really important compositional elements as if you're making I mean, think of a painting or like even a photograph. Some objects, things in the picture might be in the foreground, some might be in the background. So this is sort of like that idea, right? But
Right.
then there's also additionally an X factor, um, which is really tough to describe. But an example of an X factor might
Tough.
be,
It's tough to describe. Let me jump in. It's tough to describe, but it's exciting to think about, which I think is what a lot of when you talk to real photographers, real imagery experts of various fields, painters, visual artists, designers, videographers, photographers, painters, etc. It's really everything. The X factor is really exciting to think about. So I just want to outline that. If you want to, it's tough to describe though. I'm curious about how you're going to tackle this gazelle. Looks like there's some technical difficulties. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
hey,
Oh, there you are. Yeah, yeah.
oh, so happy to hear that.
Oh,
Oh,
amazing.
sorry, we experienced some technical difficulties right there. I'm noticing a problem with my mic. I'm trying to troubleshoot it. Then I disconnect my mic. Oh, wow. This is just one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it's all worth it.
Yep,
Sorry, we were talking about the X factor. Impossible to describe, but really interesting to talk about.
yep.
I
Really
mean, were you
to think about.
to think about? Yeah.
And yeah, and to discuss as well.
I
Thoughts.
think a perfect example of an X factor, and I think this is how they talk about it in photography school is think of like Shaq.
Right.
If you a picture of Shaq dunking, it's so easy. It's like what's in the foreground? The ball. What's in the background? The crowd.
Hmm.
What's the X factor? That would be Shaq. Yeah.
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 Shaq makes it all happen. It's
Exactly. And it's the, I guess, uh, you know, in physics you would say, you know, what's the what's the spark point of the equation or the um principle at play? What's the spark point? And I think, whenever we like to draw parallels between different fields, physics, mathematics, sciences, art. So I think the spark point is another way of phrasing the X factor. It's the point at which your eye goes there. Your eye goes there, but sometimes your brain doesn't go there at first, and that's why it's the X factor. It's because it's the it's the shack. I mean, it's a perfect way to put it. It's the shack in each image.
love
Um,
Shaq.
I met him once.
Really?
Yeah, I met him
Whoa.
once. I was in
How?
I was in a some listeners, this might rub some the wrong way, but I was in a smoke shop. With my friend who's buying a lighter. Um,
You're a legal adult.
yeah,
I
no,
think the
I
listeners should
no,
know that. There's nothing untoward was happening.
absolutely, yeah, and this was a lighter being used. Actually, we weren't even intending to light anything, so nothing was going to be lit with the lighter. It was being used for a prop, a visual prop, and a visual aid, almost like a prop in social situations. They were going to use it to so to have a lighter does convey elements of cool points in social situations. If someone asks you for a lighter and you have one, oh wow, okay, this person has a lighter. They're hip. They know what's going on.
Yeah, some people just do that to be useful too.
Exactly. So there's a sort of a
Just
service aspect of that as well that we were
people hanging out outside.
going towards. But anyways, this is in New York City, the smoke shop across from Ray's Pizza. If there's any New Yorkers out there in the listenership, um, and we turn around, lo and behold, there's Shaq right there at the front counter. He was buying hookah material.
Wow.
It was incredible, and me and my brother and my friend, me and my brother grew up playing basketball, watching basketball, and we went up to him and we're just like, "Oh my gosh, Shaq!" And we were talking to him about, like, we asked him some questions. We asked him like what his favorite championship was, and what's so interesting is that you know talking about art, and later I would learn about X factors. I was like, I met I sort of met the X factor,
Yeah,
and he was the X factor in that moment as well. So I feel like I wonder
some people
what.
are just always on.
Yeah, always on. Yeah. Um. Anyways,
So we
yeah,
need the third zone.
third zone. Yeah, zone three.
The third zone is gets pretty theoretical. But it has to do with black and white or color.
Hmm.
It's this one's the hardest one for me to understand. I didn't go to photography school, but at some point we got photos that could it would just be taken in basically color photography.
Hmm.
So you take a picture of a person and like all the colors of their clothes, their skin, and everything in the room you could see, whereas before that was done in a sort of a in a grayscale black and white thing.
Yep. Exactly.
Um, but I don't know the year that came out or and it's unclear to me whether you can still do black and white or whether this was a change that affected everyone like absolutely. Um, so yeah, is
Yeah.
that yeah, that
No, I mean, I'm right there with you in that this one, the third zone eludes me. It's one of the most elusive. It's the most elusive zone, but it's also one of the most elusive artistic principles, right? That I can get my fingers on.
right, it's
And
like music can't be played in black and white.
yeah, no, but there's an element too where, you know, they say that there's elements of the third zone that does affect um auditory art or music
Hmm,
even or film. There's an imagistic aspect of film, the visual component, that this zone affects, right? The transition from black and white to color. Um, anyways, this one we I don't want to guarantee this because it is intense, but we could revisit the third zone in a future episode, and I think it deserves more care than more care and more elaboration perhaps is necessary with than the other two zones. Um, anyways, I'm just right there with you, is all.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's important that we outline the three zones though to continue to deepen our understanding of your situation and your Odyssey, as you mentioned um, at the beginning of the episode.
yeah. So I might just continue with the story right now of the Odyssey
Absolutely.
of my Odyssey. So my Odyssey begins at the window that you can see right here on my screen. So that's sort of a little windowsill ledge area in a window.
Mhm.
And what you see here, this brown cabinet with the ribbon on it and the blanket stacked on top, well, not all listeners might know this. You might know this if you've been to my house. That is actually my bed. So my bed is a Murphy bed and it hinges down from the wall, and that's how I sleep. But I also am pretty dedicated yoga practitioner. I'm serious about it. And I really like having a lot of room to stretch around in my bedroom.
Mhm.
It's pretty essential. So,
Especially in New York
e
City, we gotta take all the space we can get.
absolutely. And I just, you know, these little shoebox apartments, they are tough on me, and I really want to get as much open space as I can. So, basically, daily, as part of making my bed, I stash my bed up in the wall, and then at night, I take it down and sleep. So, for years now, I've lived in this place and in this room, and I have taken the bed down from the wall. And for years, it wasn't here at this end of the room, pushed up against this wall. It was actually over there.
Mhm.
And it would hinge down, and the head of my bed, where I would lay my head, would be right next to the window. And it was pretty awkward because you can just barely see it in my frame, almost can't see it at all. But this thing right here is sort of a caged in radiator. That's where all the heat comes in my room.
Mhm.
So you can imagine I'd be sleeping in bed and my pillow would be all hot and heated up, and sometimes it'd get uneven, and it's just one of those things where it's a tiny indignity and like a thing that you could get away with for 2 nights or so, but throughout an entire season, it just isn't reasonable. And I finally have taken it upon myself to make a change. And I have undergone a complete odyssey of changing my room a ton. So I knew I needed to move the bed to the other side of the wall. That creates a problem because now when the bed swings down, the bed is now blocking my closet just a little bit. My closet had two doors that swung open and out. So what I did is I removed both the doors so that the closet is just open to the rest of the room and it's
Smart.
not an issue that my bed is blocking it just a little bit.
Right.
And then I had my ukulele that was hung up on this end of the wall. It doesn't work anymore. I had to take it down. I moved it. Then I moved a poster that was sitting right here because I wanted to put my guitar there because my guitar had been chilling out under my bed most of the time and it just felt too hard for me to access and it felt like it was taking up floor space that I wanted to use to stretch.
You
And
gotta bend down, right? Bend your knees, go reach under the bed to
not
get
reasonable.
far. Yeah.
No, no. And I basically I like to do this time to time, the Marie Kondo of it all, just getting rid of stuff. I
Mhm.
think we all have just far too much stuff. Sometimes I feel like I am sometimes the most at peace, like when I'm in another place, but not even necessarily on vacation. I can just be in another place, still working remotely or something like that, but I just feel more at peace because I have less stuff to worry about and less stuff weighing me down. So I've been getting rid of a bunch of stuff. I've been drilling holes in my wall, doing all these construction projects. Now I've been since I got all my tools out and everything, to hang up a new shelf above my closet and to do all this moving around of things, and rig up these new things. Um, then I was like, why don't I reorganize all my tools and reorganize the utility closet? And now I'm basically on a tear and I'm reorganizing the entire apartment. This is when my roommate is out of town for like more than 10 days.
Yeah.
So I just have this whole space is entirely my workshop and it has devolved over the course of the last few days into just complete chaos. Everything is everywhere. All the tools are all over the couch and all over the kitchen counter. I get this like I get meals in the mail, the Hello Fresh type of
Right.
thing.
Hello Fresh.
And I
Yeah.
haven't been able to cook any of them because my kitchen is just completely taken over by all this bullshit. Now,
Mm.
the biggest piece of drama that's come from all this is that when I was trying to move this bed, I ignored a very deliberately placed warning label that warned me that I should not unscrew the bed from the wall without first removing the mattress support platform, the thing that swings down from the wall. That thing needs to be removed before I unscrew the frame on the wall to move it. However, in my genius of uh, my stupidity, honestly, I should be
Two
real
sides of
with you
the same
guys.
coin. Two sides of the same coin.
Yeah. I decided, oh, well, I'm only moving it a few feet. It's not like I'm taking this apart to move apartments or anything like that. I should
Yeah,
be able
but
to be fine. I won't detach anything. I'll just straight up unscrew this from the wall. It'll stand in place.
hide
I'll
it.
push it a few feet and then I'll screw it back in. So, what am I doing? I'm I let the mattress platform down. I removed the mattress, right? So I'm just standing on the hard supports, the metal bracing of it. And I'm taking my power drill and I'm unscrewing the whole thing from the wall. It's a row of screws that's along the top of the cabinet thing on the inside up against the wall.
How many
It's
screws? What's the
like 5 screws, but they're
five?
big and they're
So
supposed to
odd
only go
number.
into the studs. So
Gotcha. Stud
that's
facing
you're banking on it.
screws. Yeah.
And I'm not thinking too much of this. I'm thinking, I bet this thing just free stands on its own because it's got the supports of the bed posts, the legs of the bed, right? Come
Mm.
down. They're standing on the ground. The cabinet itself is standing on the ground. So when I unscrew this, it'll just stay put. It'll just be there, right? So I unscrew them and I'm standing on the bed platform and it starts to collapse on me. And basically it's like about to like fully collapse and make a sandwich out of me and like eat me like an alligator. And I freaked out. This is the day after my roommate left town. I'm just alone in my room, fucking around with power tools. And like I had set a bunch of tools on top of the shelf and they all started sliding down and like hitting me. And then all of a sudden, I've got my hands up and I'm like standing on the bed platform, which is like wobbly underneath me because now this is losing support because it's coming off the wall and falling on me. So I have to push and hold the whole thing up and like walk off of it slowly and then try to like jump off of it. And then it was really scary.
That's really scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that you're okay. I'm glad that that force, it sounds like it was heavy too. It sounds like it's a heavy platform.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty heavy.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
mean,
a
I could have,
whole, it's like a whole like system. It's a full cabinet and a
yeah.
thing, and that thing's made of metal. It's like it's silly.
Whoa. So
So I had a,
the
what'd you say?
screws were somehow holding in the system. There's a
They
correlation,
completely are. Yeah.
or there's a correlation between the system, the framework inside, and the screws, which were holding it in place.
It's pretty crazy because now basically what happened is I was like I got off the thing, I collapsed, I put it all together and stood it up. And when I stood it up and sandwiched it, it was okay to sit there for a while. But I was like, okay, I can't screw this back into the wall now because how do I do that? I have to open it up and then I can't go stand on it to get close enough to do the thing or I'm gonna.
Wow.
So I had to get my friend to come over so that he could hold it in place while I got up there and did my thing.
Yeah.
And it was pretty intense. It actually like almost fell over on us a couple times or whatever, but it was just so stupid. I can't believe how stupidly I did this. There's like a warning label straight up like next to the area where all the screws are. Just like
Right. Like
how did
right
I do
there.
this?
Well, we think that we know what's best. There's an element of, you know, I feel like we receive so many warnings, like the amount of warnings that we see in day-to-day life, like what percentage of those are like incredibly serious to acknowledge? Like
I know.
we
Yeah.
see stuff like wet floor, warning, wet floor. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna slip, right? Like I know how to walk. We see, watch your step. Yeah, okay, I'm on stairs. I know the drill. These types of warnings are like, mind the gap. Listeners that are in New York, mind the gap of the subway or, train systems. We we're sort of inundated with warnings because warnings have to be there to protect the companies from being sued, basically. Um, if there's an accident, so they can say, "Hey, we warned you. We're not liable," et cetera, et cetera. I think it's natural to see a warning and be like, okay, I got it. So this is, you know, me giving you some slack, which I, take the slack. I think I would have, hearing how it went down, I perhaps would have done the same thing. It is frustrating because it leads to this, this experience. But hey, that's what life is about. Life is learning. Life is about sometimes we got to be humbled to be better, you know. Um, but how did it finish out? How, like the mattress moving? Did it? I
It
mean, it
all
looks great.
well, it all worked out. And
Mm.
then, you know, it was throwing me for a loop because when I first ordered this bed, right, they sent a guy to install it for me. Really cool. So I didn't have to worry about how it worked.
Mhm.
It was just a guy who's a professional who just made it happen for me. Now taking it apart, I now understand how it works and how it can collapse on you and all this dumb shit. But now, because I'm so intimately familiar with the five screws holding it into the wall and keeping me from being crushed by my bed, I'm kind of like, really worried. And I'm like always looking at the status of those screws because I want to be honest, he did a better job screwing the screws in than I did. Like
Mm.
when I can like put my head up against the wall and see there's like a tiny gap between the bed and the wall. The screw is in there, it's in the studs. I think it's fine. I can't really shake it around or move it. It's not a tenuous connection. Seems like it's really in there.
Yeah.
But there's part of me like that is wondering like, is it good enough? Could I have done it better? I'm not a handyman. I'm sort of handy, but never done this. Never entrusted myself to my own, never entrusted my safety through the night to my own ability to like use a drill. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Mm. Hmm. Well, I think there's an element of for one to become, one must become, in the sense that
Yoda.
exactly. So in order to become, one must become, meaning one must go through the process of becoming a handyman, a handier man or
Mm-hmm.
woman, or, you know, there's handy, all types of handy things. And how'd they, how'd they get there? They went through. So there's a learning process, a natural learning process. I think that if it's unshakable, if you can't shake, I feel like shaking indicates instability. If you can't shake, my thought is like you're probably fine.
I
If
think
an
I think that's
earthquake
accurate.
ensues, if an earthquake occurs, maybe don't hide in a area where the bed would fall, but
Right.
that would be the case no matter what. If there's an earthquake, you're not hiding under a fallable item. Does that,
Totally.
you know? So, I mean, and this is safety and just awareness for the listeners too. I mean, I think I actually know for a fact that we've got tons of listeners who also have Murphy beds. And I think our addresses got switched. I've received a lot of letters to me saying, "Hey, how's the Murphy bed going? Just want to check in because our listeners obviously know you have a Murphy bed, but I think they got our addresses switched.
Hmm.
So I actually need to give you all this mail, which I think would at this point give you a lot of just just community in this way, because the Murphy bed community is very tight knit from the letters that I've received and read, and I
Right.
have
They're
read all
like
I haven't
they're
read all.
referencing other people who've been writing you letters.
Absolutely, yeah, and
Wow.
there's like, sometimes group letters.
Man, I feel like the like community knowledge would have saved me here.
Yeah,
Would have kept me from making this mistake in the first place.
yeah. I feel, I've had these letters for quite some time. I'm sorry that I have not given you these letters because I didn't know that, you were amidst this. Um, I've actually, you know, become somewhat attached
At the
to them.
letters?
Dang. Yeah, feeling a lot right now. I feel like I'm not really being who I am saying that I'm being, in the sense that I don't have a Murphy bed, and I've been enjoying these letters for you, that they're intended for you, and I want to take this opportunity to say that I'm really sorry, Jacob.
Hmm.
It's a heavy moment, listeners.
Accept your apology. But I
Like,
hope you see the consequences of keeping letters from someone. It could hurt them. The bed could have collapsed on me completely, and I could be doing this Zoom call from my phone because I'd been stranded, snapshot in the jaws of a Murphy bed for days,
yeah,
and without my audio quality on this podcast right now could be extremely poor because I'd be using my phone
you could
trapped
be,
within a Murphy bed.
you could be thirsty. And your like voice could be like super parched or like
I wouldn't even be on video. We wouldn't be able to play off each other like this.
we wouldn't be able to be talking about these topics. I mean, the consequences are abundantly clear, and I'm gonna be better.
Cool.
So, listeners, um, to help us move forward, for the Murphy bed listeners, if you could just send the letters, basically you have our addresses switched, so just send it to the other address of us, and it'll get to the right owner. Um, I will say, silver lining moment. I learned a lot from these letters and the sense of community and support and belonging. I think we live in such a divided and isolated world, these days. I think since COVID, we have grown apart due to us having to, be isolated. I'm smiling because I'm happy that I don't know, the letters provide some sort of community for me
Yeah.
that I think I don't know, it's well, hierarchy of needs, right? Number one is to be seen visually in real time. Hierarchy of needs, right? Um, Pavlov. So hierarchy of needs by Pavlov. Um, so silver lining, I guess,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that you'll get to benefit from benefit from that as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to be safe. I'm happy to be doing a ton of projects in the house, throwing a lot of stuff away,
Mm,
doing a lot of stuff. A lot of my books are all over the floor right now because I need a new place to put them. It's a time of change. I'm setting myself up for success in the coming year.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to just get rid of the unnecessary and just tailor my space to my needs and goals,
Hmm.
Just make this a place where that is designed for me to accomplish my goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's so exciting. I think, yeah, I'm curious what item or items, if any, come to mind that have been really difficult to let go of, because I know how hard it can be to let go of stuff.
Hmm.
I think I know that the listeners also have experienced hardship with letting go.
Trying to think of everything out there that I've, to be honest, I'm not really parting ways with like terribly sentimental stuff. It's mostly just like things that have a utility that is a real utility that I'm just making a bet that I'm not going to need them again for a long
Right.
time.
Yeah.
And that's always painful because you sometimes, because I've been through many versions of this cleaning things out, cleaning things up process.
Hmm.
Can you see my cat right now? She's right.
Yeah, wait. Yeah. Oh, we want to
Mom, turn the mic a little more. Oh, that's so
introduce
cute.
introduce Precious Bear to the listenership.
This is Joni, everybody.
Oh, I can't see the. You want to hold her up? Joey. You gonna say something?
ASMR. She would like my attention right now.
Guest, special guest, the first guest
Our first guest on the
on the
podcast.
first guest on the podcast.
Thanks for coming here, Joni.
Wow.
Um, and what was I going to say? There are a few things that I've struggled with. I think, you know what? I've been unpacking this thing, gifts. When somebody gives you a gift,
Mm,
I can't throw away gifts very well. Like I've had this moment where I realized there were several things that I picked up and I was like, and I realized that I've had them for years and years and never used them because I felt so guilty about throwing them away and I really didn't want to. And I finally sort of got through that resistance this time and was able to throw things away because I was like, you know what? The few times I used them were great, or maybe I didn't use them, but now the the person who gave me this gift would not, in my position, want me to keep this simply to remember them by or something. It's just like,
no,
no,
yeah.
they're a real person in my life, like, and
They
they
care
won't,
about you and your
yeah,
functionality and or functioning and ability to just yeah, live your best life. Like a gift is meant to uplift and alleviate or be a welcome thing and some gifts run their course. And but I totally understand that I have a really hard time getting rid of gifts that for that same reason it's like feels like a unspoken like diss to the gift
absolutely.
giver. And it's
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I don't want to diss them. There is a thing that I looked at right now that's in my closet
mhm,
that is it. I think it's kind of it's like a recency thing. Like
mhm,
I got that as a gift this year, and I
mhm.
don't think I'm going to use it, but I kind of need to keep it around for a little while. It's not taking up too much space.
Is it too is this a too public platform to like show us what the gift is? Maybe we can talk about it and do a little
No,
deep
I think it would be I
explanation
think it
with
would be
it.
acceptable. And I think if the person who gave it to me saw, I think they would be interested by the
Thought
examination of
process.
it.
And
Yeah,
this is the recency gifts. This is very relevant to the phenomenon of gifts is that recency, you know, affects the decision-making process.
she is like rubbing up against my computer and taking the charger out. She is so happy with me right now because today I finally fixed all the disaster around the house and I finally put all the tools away. I
Uh,
organized it so the house seems it's an apartment, but the apartment seems like the apartment again,
yeah,
instead of this like crazy zone of chaos that it has been.
yeah.
And cats don't love changes in their environment. So she was getting grumpy and anxious about how different everything was. But now she's really happy with me because I changed her litter and I fixed the apartment. I'm gonna go get the gift now. I'll be
Okay,
right back.
okay. Jacob is getting the gift, and here he comes. Getting coming back. I was just doing a little sort of announcement
Oh,
while you
what was the announcement?
well, the announcement, it was more of, I guess I should say, a narration. I said, Jacob is getting the gift, be back, and then you got back. So,
Wow, I feel like audio only listeners are extremely lost this episode because they couldn't even see like the things we've been pointing to in my room.
I
Haven't been
know,
able to see Joni.
yeah, we
Totally
can
sucks.
description, maybe we can create a system like a starring system or an asterisk system or like out of five asterisks, like how necessary seeing the video is. Okay, we have a Clothing, article of clothing. This looks like a crew neck, or is it just a shirt, or is
It's
it
a
a
pink sweater. It's a pink crew neck sweater.
awesome cotton?
I believe so, yeah.
Talk to us.
Yes.
Let's walk through this.
So this was an Easter gift from my parents.
Okay.
I believe my mom picked this out. Um, you don't usually get gifts on Easter. It's not a big gift holiday, but I get gifts on Easter. I think my parents both come from families where Easter was pretty serious business.
Hmm.
So when we used to live at home, me and my brothers, we would get up on Easter morning and we would have a little egg hunt. Not like an Easter egg hunt like with the kids, but we would have like a note that was left for us by the Easter bunny.
Hmm.
And we would hop around and do like all these things, and then we would be led one by one to our gift baskets, which would have gifts for us.
Would you hop in the sense that you literally hopping, you would embody the act of a bunny?
Yeah, it was like the Easter bunny would be like, I hop like Peter Rabbit down the hallway and into Micah's room. Like, like stuff like that.
Wow,
It
that's
was
fun.
like a full set of directions. And then
How
there were like
old
little riddles and stuff.
was there an age range? Like, were you 18, senior in high school and like
N-
hopping around for
Oh
Easter?
yeah. Well, I've done this more recently than that. Yeah. Because
Right,
my brothers are younger than me.
right.
So I
You
gotta
as the
participate.
leader, you
And I
gotta.
love doing it.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds honestly, it sounds really fun.
Yeah. So this sweater is an Easter gift. And I didn't go home for Easter. And now like the brothers are growing up. The littlest one is 18 now. He's a freshman in college. But I got a really nice Easter gift basket in the mail. And to me, here's exactly what happened. Easter gifts feel so nice. And it feels like such a nice thing to receive and so unexpected and so extra, as we've
Yeah,
just discussed,
right.
that like poo-pooing one in any way is just like, it seems unacceptable. So my
Yeah.
mom literally sent this to me in the mail and was like, is this a good gift? Or would you rather return it and get something else? By the way, this is from J. Crew, which is like kind of nice.
Yeah, that's super reputable. For the listeners that don't know what J. Crew is, um, J. Crew is would you say it's a brand, it's a company,
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
an organization of clothing, basically, and they only do, they have a sector where they only do sweaters, and those are these types of crew necks, but then they have other sectors where they do all different types of stuff. But there's one sector that only does crew necks. I'm assuming that your mom got it from that sector
Probably, yeah.
of that company. And J. Crew was named after someone who was one of the primary influencers in how that company got started. So they named the company after one of the influencers.
Yeah. How bad would it be? How bad would it feel to be like the second place person who almost had J. Crew named after them?
Gosh, I can't even imagine.
I don't
Honestly, I
even.
don't even want to imagine. Like, I literally don't want to imagine, but I will for the sake of the podcast.
But imagine if that motivated you to start your own company named after yourself that was like arguably just as iconic.
You know what? I think that was actually Gap. I think Gap
Whoa.
from Motivation Fueled because they weren't chosen by, I don't know if it was J. Crew, but it was another, you know, big company. And
Wow.
yeah, hey, sometimes,
I need to watch more YouTube shorts about corporate America lore.
oh, 100%.
I
I
think that
think
would just
I,
be
I
like a really, really worthwhile thing to get
like,
super obsessed with.
yeah, no, I think about that all the time. Like what YouTube shorts would contribute to my life in a wildly positive way.
Oh yeah. Did I show you my favorite YouTube short that I've seen recently? No, we have to get back to the story. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes,
And
but
then I'm going to talk about YouTube shorts after this, okay?
okay.
My mom sent me the sweater. She
Okay.
called me on the phone and she was like, and I'm looking at this sweater and I'm thinking, it's pretty pink and I don't know if I have a lot of things that go with this, and pinks like this tend to bring out a thing in my skin tone that just kind of makes me look a little swollen. And I'm all for pink. I'm all for men wearing pink. I think it's a great
Right.
color, but
Not a
it
gender.
just
It's not
doesn't
about gender thing or like a masculinity thing.
it does
It
it's a
seems like
specifically
it's
a
about
color that doesn't suit
swollen,
me super well. Yeah.
makes you look swollen.
Yeah, absolutely. And then my mom was like, you know, do you want to return it and get something else? And I was like, no, no. I was effusively refused.
Just
Just like,
absolutely, even though in your head you're thinking,
yeah, in my head, I'm thinking, well, yeah, that would certainly make the most sense because I can't see myself choosing to wear this thing because I'm like not feeling confident about what the color is going to do for me, whatever. But I
yeah,
was like, no, no way.
you're saying no, obviously. Meanwhile, in your head, you're envisioning yourself swollen as a strawberry
Yeah.
walking down the street.
Basically looking like a peach walking around wearing this.
Yeah, and hey, peaches love to eat them, don't like to look like them,
Yeah.
you
Eh,
know.
I could do worse than this, I guess. But I'm also not in the sun right now. The lighting's different.
I will say the swollen aspect of this, I think, is more of an imaginative element.
Yeah.
But the eyes can play tricks on us. Very interesting. So yeah, the dissonance between what you were thinking and the insistence. I'm like, of course I'm not gonna, Mom, no, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
totally.
earn this.
Yeah,
Very
because in my well, exactly, because I'm thinking, oh man, maybe this pink color is not the best for me. But my bigger thought is like, I can do nothing at all to disrespect or impugn in the slightest way an Easter gift. That's just simply unacceptable.
yeah.
An
What's
Easter gift
interesting
is
though.
just pure bonus.
Yeah, right.
An Easter gift is, in fact, a gift horse, right? Well, who am I to look it in its mouth, right?
And say no.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's
To
maybe
look
it's not
to
for
look
me.
at a horse in its mouth and say no.
Yeah, that's such an interesting saying. Is that like do horses have an eye in there or something?
Well, they don't have a literal eye in the sense of a an eyeball, but they have senses. Apparently, and I've read a lot on this, is that horses have um senses like nerve endings, extra nerve endings in their mouth that make them incredibly sensitive in that area, which sometimes when you look at a horse in its mouth, it actually is more responsive and receptive to the signals that you're giving the horse than if you were to look at the horse in its eye. Or
Wow.
so that's where the saying comes from. But no, I totally know what you mean. What's interesting though is that your mom, you know, and this happened, this plays out. It's like when someone offers something, and it's like you literally got the offer to change course, to if
I know.
if you there's an invitation to communicate what you're thinking if this sweater or gift isn't the right thing for you. But what's interesting is sometimes when people do that and the person actually does communicate, yeah, it's not really my thing, there will still be feelings hurt or like, oh, but I'm curious, like, do you think that you're protecting your mom's feelings for legitimate reasons, or would she have just not cared at all, given it a second thought?
I I think she wouldn't have cared because she's my mom. She has bought clothes for me in the past. Like
Yeah,
when I
right.
was a kid, she bought all my clothes. Like,
Yeah,
and like, she's bought me something that I was like, oh, this doesn't fit right or something like she's returned clothes on my behalf in the past.
yeah,
I think she doesn't really have an ego about it.
yeah. Maybe the fact that it was an Easter related thing, like the fact
It
that it
was
was
the Easter of it all that
Easter
really,
of it all. Yeah,
yeah. But
yeah.
there have been other gifts during this whole room and apartment odyssey that I have said, okay, well, I've had these for a long time. And right now, the greatest gift that I can give myself is the freedom from this thing and the feeling of obligation to it. And
You know what's
I've been able
interesting?
to gladly put those away.
You know what's interesting is that the joy that you feel, the relief or the weight liftedness that you feel from having gotten rid of these items, these gifts, maybe that was the gift all along.
I know.
That gift came full circle, and that by giving the gift away,
So
it's
right.
providing you with this sense of clarity, relief, getting rid of this clutter, the mental clutter. Very interesting stuff how gifts can have that. In fact, sometimes the best way to say thank you to someone who gives you a gift that you don't like is by throwing it away immediately. Because that can give you the best feeling, an
Yeah.
unparalleled. And if they are like, wait, what? What did you do? Then you can, hey, show them this episode. They probably aren't listeners.
Right.
If
And
someone's
tell them
mad
it's best to watch in a video medium, even though it is a
of course.
podcast.
Yes, exactly. Um, and yeah, I think that's a big part of our show is that we are unveiling things that people don't really necessarily intuitively or would, see
Hmm.
or think about. And this idea of throwing away these gifts actually being the best way of saying thank you, and the best way to show appreciation is
Yeah.
intuitive, but it's bulletproof. Makes a lot of sense.
That's huge, man. Should I get to the YouTube Shorts
Yeah,
thing?
I was just gonna say, is it time to talk about YouTube Shorts?
I just saw a YouTube short recently that affected me and made me laugh. But I'm realizing that in talking about it, I'll be kind of breaking a rule of the show.
Hmm.
And I don't really want to do that. But I feel like I can do this in a way that doesn't trap us in a bad pattern.
What's the rule that you speak of?
I
Obviously,
think
there's
I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna do the segment.
you speak.
And
Yeah, let's do that.
if you desperately need to stop me and put a stop to this, no, I trust you. I trust your
But
judgment. But
dude, you just came through an Odyssey. Consider this a little treat. We
okay.
can break the mold. We're finding the mold as we go.
So we're not here to talk about Star Wars because we're going to do that on episode 40, our Star Wars roundup. That episode's going to be really long. It's going to be my full thoughts
Yep.
on
Episode
all
40.
9 tentpole movies plus just the general extended universe. This is not about my opinions, the thoughts, big analysis of Star Wars. This is just that I liked Star Wars as a kid. I think it's interesting and fun, and there's a lot to learn about it. And I recently came across a guy who makes very earnest YouTube shorts about Star Wars lore and different side characters who you may know from the movies and um, different adventures that they have off screen through
Uh,
extended universe comic books and other stories.
right.
And
Gotcha.
this YouTube short was specifically about the Jedi Master Ki-Adi-Mundi. Do you know who that is, Isaiah?
The short answer is yes, absolutely, and the longer answer is that I'm not remembering who that is.
You would definitely recognize him. He's a prequels character. He's one of the Jedi who's on the High Council. He is a an alien, but he basically looks exactly like a man, but he just has a huge forehead and his head is really big and tall.
While coming
And
back. Yep.
he's kind of like an older man. He kind of has like a white mustache and he has a tiny like white ponytail, but his head is really long. And that's pretty much it.
Yep.
So he's an interesting, character design looking guy. He's kind of a wise master. He only has like a handful of lines and through all the prequels, but he's there. He's one of the Jedi on the Jedi Council. And there's a short that I watched, um, and it's like, oh, this is the only Jedi who is allowed to have kids and get married. Normally, family attachments and romantic partnerships were frowned upon in the Jedi Order. One such example being Anakin Skywalker. We all
Mhm.
know how that ended. But did you know that Jedi Master Ki-Adi-Mundi was allowed to get married and have multiple children? It's true. Because Ki-Adi-Mundi's species has a very low birth rate of males, he was granted a special exception by the Jedi Order to take 5 wives and have 7 children. Although, because of his Jedi principles, he was not supposed to become attached. This, of course, was very hard for him, and especially tragic because his entire family was killed in the war.
What?
Did you know this about Jedi Master Ki-Adi-Mundi? And then, so throughout this reel has been several images of Ki-Adi-Mundi, images of his family from like a comic book or something. And then at the very end, the very last frame is a picture of Ki-Adi-Mundi with his lightsaber on
Yeah.
and kind of looking determined. It's obviously like a promo shot for like one of the prequel films. It has like the actor in the full costume and everything, and it just has big text over Ki-Adi-Mundi, allowed to get married. And it's just a picture, it's just a picture of this like tall-headed alien guy. And I was like, literally, this is why I love Star Wars. This is so fucking cool. Somebody took so much time, and this thing has thousands of views. This is like a guy's
Allowed to
real
get
like
married.
YouTube hustle. It's so fucking sick. It's like, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's so good. We gotta like we gotta get that image. We gotta shout this guy out in the comments. Hopefully, maybe we can do, you know
I'll get
what?
that image for you right now.
Let's get the image. Maybe we can share our screen. We'll do a shout out, a live shout out.
Can I text you the image? Is that acceptable?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, I've got it on my phone. I saved it.
Oh, I bet you did. I would have.
I'm
So
glad that you laughed at me describing the image because I was worried, but you're definitely gonna laugh at seeing the image because it is so funny.
the description, let's see. Oh, here we go. Okay, open with preview. Let's get this shared. Here we go. Listenership. Wow. 20K likes. This is amazing.
This thing's doing
So
numbers.
this this channel, let's do a little shout out. Red
Red
5
5
Star
Star
Wars. Yo,
Wars.
shouts out to Red 5 Star Wars. Hey, episode 40, we're gonna do a full-length Star Wars analysis, debrief, celebration. I don't even want to put one label on it. It's going to be more of um festival of lights, a festival of stars, we could call it.
That, oh my God, that's got to be the episode title. Episode 40, A Festival of Stars.
Festival of
And
stars. So
it's as long as it needs to be. So we're looking at around 3 hours. It's gonna be a 3 hour.
long. There's
I
gonna
think
also,
we'll probably be big enough at that point that we can have a lot of like panel guests like George Lucas.
yeah. Oh, for sure.
We could
I've
probably get
seen,
some of the actors. I mean, this would be insane.
I
This would be
think we
insane.
definitely get some of the
But
actors.
I have to share my uncensored thoughts. You
About Star
know, yeah.
course.
which will involve like I have some critical things to say.
Of course. I mean, we are going to really dig deep. Episode 4. So this is actually good that we're sprinkling in some Star Wars, um, you know, hype for, call it a foreshadowing or a little, you know, um, gift to future listenership, to build momentum, basically, is what we're doing. We're building momentum. We're building momentum, and that's hilarious. I love that. I'm gonna save that. And yeah, who knows? Maybe we can have Red 5 Star Wars on as a guest as well. I'm sure
Wow.
if George Lucas can make it, I'm sure he'll make some time.
Wow, having Red 5 Star Wars on the bot. I mean, I've seen some of his other shorts too. They're pretty good. None of them have like frames that are as funny as that, but I mean, it's a pretty good resource for just like knowing about the lore and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be a good for at least my own research. I'll be checking some of that out. Yeah, wow. Oh my gosh. A lot covered today. How are we feeling? Let's do a check-in with ourselves. Let's do just like some deep breathe, like maybe 2 deep breaths each,
Okay.
along with our listeners. I really do I really see deep breaths on podcasts. Besides, I wouldn't call Yoga with Adrian a podcast, but it is there's a lot of br- deep breathing that goes on. Shout out to Yoga for Adrian too. Um, I don't know. I don't know if she's the main character of that channel. Like, obviously, she's in all the videos. She's doing all of the yoga. She's really. You would think that she's the main character
Yeah.
in that YouTube channel, but I always like to, you know, dig deeper a little bit, and I wonder if 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 like her, if if there's a secret, um someone else, like a secret someone else,
Hmm.
also a main character, maybe two, there would be two main characters. Anyways, shouts out to Yoga for Adrian.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that. It gives everyone something interesting to think about. I
Yeah.
feel like today was a really discussion heavy episode, and I
Mhm.
feel like we didn't do a lot of visual stuff. But we'll get to that next time. I think there's no worries. I think
Yeah,
we need to do more poem stuff. We need to do more investigating. This was a big emotional one for me, you
the
know,
Odyssey, Jacob's Odyssey, I
Jacob's
think.
Odyssey and
The
Isaiah's confession.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, I feel a lot better after that, and I'm grateful for you, dear friend, to be able to, you know, be able to forgive me and at the same time guide me to the water of truth. Sense um that I learned and I feel quenched of um sometimes we're thirsty for water, sometimes we're thirsty for connection, sometimes we're thirsty for honesty. And I think in those moments of reading those letters, I was thirsty for connection, but for I was denying myself to be able to quench the thirst for honesty. And I feel like I quenched that thirst today. And so I just want to, yeah, say thank you. And thank you to the listeners.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you to the listeners, of course.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't say that enough, but I think at the exact same time, I think we do.
Well, this is a great note to end it on. Um, much love to you guys. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Take care, listeners.
Bye.